Now this is a good reason why we do a dry fit. Once I have this put together, I've realized that these dovetails are actually blocking the groove for the panel, and that these dividers are slightly higher, which will prevent the side plywood panel from sitting in place. So what I'll do is I'll rip these off, these three pieces, and then I'll also have to take the bottom of this dovetail off in order to fit the bottom into place. So I'm going to tap these apart and take them to the table saw and rip them. Now that I have these ripped, what I can do is go ahead and lay out the location of the mortises for the drawer runners. Then I'll be able to mortise them in the other room. I'll trim these dovetails by hand so that the bottom panel will fit in. Well, now it's time for the glue up. What I'll do is to do the long drawer divider first, the petition second, and then the last two drawer dividers. Now you notice that I have so that the front is against the bench, so all I have to do is drive the pieces in until they come in contact with the front of the bench, and they should be good. We should just do a little cleanup and we'll be all set. We'll flip it over and check the other side. Make sure everything is aligned. Now these are standing proud just a little bit. We'll be able to plane that flush. Now let's go on to the back. Now, I need to ease the edges. It makes it a little easier, especially at this point, because I can run the plane all the way through and I don't have to worry about hitting against the legs. So I've eased those, and I'm going to go ahead and start the glue up. You might notice that I've pre-drilled the holes for my lag screws that'll hold the top. And I'm going to go ahead and pre-assemble this dry so that I can make sure that all the panels are going to work the way that I'm thinking about. Now I'm taking measurements for my side panels, my back, and my bottom. But you should note that we're going to have to cut some rabbets in the bottom along the ends in the back so that we can put the side panels in so that the bottom edge of the side panels don't show and will be covered by the side rails. I don't have a cross-cut sled large enough to handle these cuts, but I can improvise. I measure the distance from the blade to the left-hand edge of the saw table. Now, I measure over that amount from my layout line, clamp a straight edge into place, and make my cut running the straight edge against the side of the saw table. Remember, you can only do this on a table that has an uninterrupted milled edge. I'm scribing these lines in the bottom so it prevents tear out when I cut the rabbets. Don't forget to cut a dado down the back panel. This will accept the center petition later on. Now I got to cut this little dado at the top here. So I think what I'll do is I'll cut it with my router, plane that is. And I'm going to make some cross cuts. I have to get the depth of cut here, and then we'll go at it. Now I'll go ahead and scribe the depth of the dado here. Rough cut these with the saw. The router plane is really quite a handy little tool. You know, it's got a cutter on the bottom with you can actually have different size cutters. This little thumb screw will loosen the blade, and this knurled nut will adjust the blade up and down. Now, the beautiful thing about the router is it rests on the two sides over here. Depth of cut will make it exactly the perfect depth of cut. Then we'll go back, put a chisel in the line, chop, chop. Simple as that. Now I'm just trying to flush up some of these areas that are where they're slightly above the surface. This generally happens on most projects, so. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and soften a few of these edges before I glue up. Once again, we want to make sure that you check all of your rectangular openings for square. Now we're going to glue in our panels. We're going to start with the bottom, then we'll do the back, and then go on to the ends. Now you'll notice how I notched around the post in order for the bottom to fit around the legs. Well, I just shot a couple of pins in here just to hold the bottom in place while the glue dries, and that'll allow us to go on to put the back in. Now, since I can't really get any clamps coming in from the back here, I just take a couple of battens that are just slightly longer than the distance between the two ends and bow it inside of there, and that'll actually act as a clamp to hold the panel in place while I pin it. I'll go ahead and clamp it on the other side, and we should be fine. And that allows us to move on to the next. Now, before I put in the center petition, I rethought what was going on and thought it would be a good idea to put the drawer runners in on this side. So what I've done is I've cut these and tenon one end, cut them to length, drilled a hole for the screw to hold them in place, and they'll fit into the mortises in the back of the dividers. One of the things that we really have to worry about is to make sure that all of these runners are good and square to the front edge, because this is going to determine our openings for our drawers. So if they're angled in any direction, that means that we'll have to make tapered drawers, which we don't want to have to do. There, now that I have the runners in place, I can go ahead and focus on the petition. I need to glue this into place. What I did over at the table saw was I made this tongue that fits into the back of the petition. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on this and go ahead and slide it into place. Now you'll notice that I'm using a brush here to apply the glue. A little less messy than trying to squeeze some glue in from the bottle. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple of clamps on here. And this will help to make sure that the petition is aligned with the plywood petition. Well, I got a few more runners to tackle, but I'll take care of that on my own. But in the next episode, I'll show you how we'll tackle the bench top.